Today we're going to be going over synthetic division. Synthetic division is a division method that shortcuts long division, what y'all been doing the last couple of days. Step one is going to be just like what we did yesterday, where we rework it and put them in order from greatest to least on exponents. So when we look at this problem, we need to see which exponent is going to go first. And the exponent that goes first is going to be the cubed, then the squared, the one without an exponent, which means it's exponent of 1, the one without a variable, which means exponent of 0. So I'm going to rewrite that. So my cube number goes first, so x cubed plus 8x squared minus 27x minus 75 divided by x plus 10. That part didn't change because it's already in order. Step 2 is to take your binomial that you're dividing by and setting it equal to 0 and solving. And so when we set it equal to 0 and solve, we have to move the 10 over to the other side, making it x is equal to negative 10. This number is about to come into play when we're doing the synthetic division. Synthetic division is going to be set up by drawing the bottom right-hand corner of a box. And we're going to put that negative 10 inside that box. And then we're going to list the coefficients from our first set of parentheses that I just highlighted. So the coefficient for this first one is 1, then it's a positive 8, negative 27, and a negative 75. So I'm going to write those down here, leaving a space between each one. Skip a line, and then I'm going to draw a horizontal line right after that. Step 1 is going to be to drop your first number down. You're not doing anything with it, but just bringing it down and writing it as is. Then you are going to multiply that number times what was in the box. And that number becomes negative 10. You're going to write it under the 8. Then you're going to add those two numbers. 8 plus a negative 10 is a negative 2. Then you're going to repeat. You're going to multiply. So negative 2 times negative 10 is positive 20. Then you're going to add. Giving us negative 7. Then you're going to multiply, giving us a positive 70. And you're going to add, giving us a negative 5. And like I said, this is a shortcut to do what we've been doing. This last number is your remainder. Now, kind of going back to what we started with. Where did these numbers come from? This was attached to my x cubed, this was attached to my x squared, this was attached to my x, and this is my constant. When we do this process, it is going to create it going down one step. So an x cubed is going to become, that column will become the x squared. The x squared will become the x. And the last number, the next number will become your constant, and then your remainder. And so we're going to rewrite it as a problem like above. So our answer will be x squared minus 2x minus 7 minus, because my remainder is negative, 5 divided by x plus 10. And that's your answer. If that remainder is ever 0, that means it's a perfect factor in it. I'm doing ones for the first couple that are not going to end up with 0. And your homework is not going to end up with anything with 0. So let's look at this next one. First question is, are they in order? They are in order, but I'm missing something. I'm missing the one without an exponent. And so I need to rewrite it to where I have my cubed, my squared. If I don't have something, I put a 0. Divided by n minus 1. So, next step is to take this binomial and we're going to set it equal to 0. n minus 1 equals 0. That's going to happen when n is equal to 1. You don't have to show me the stuff I'm doing right now. That's something that some of you will be doing mentally, and that's fine. So we're going to go ahead and write our synthetic division form. And let's write our coefficients. So the coefficient in front of this one is a 1, a negative 7, a 0, and negative 1. And the 1 from here goes here. Step 1, drop my first number down straight. Then I am going to multiply that number times 1, give me 1. Then add, giving me negative 6. Then multiply, give me negative 6. Then add, giving me negative 6. Then multiply it, giving me negative 6. Then add one last time, give me negative 7. Remember, the last thing we get, the last number, whether it's a 0 or a number, that's your remainder. And so let's go back and rewrite it as a problem. So this was my n cubed my n squared, my n, and my constant. So this will become my n squared, this will become my n, my constant, and my remainder. And so my answer is n squared minus 6n minus 6. The remainder is negative. The remainder is negative, so I'm going to put a minus sign. 7 over, this time my factor I divided by was n minus 1. That problem is done. This also can help you evaluate polynomials, and that is by the remainder theorem. The remainder theorem says that if you use synthetic division with the term that you're trying to evaluate with, it will get, the remainder will be the solution for plugging it in. So typically on this problem, we would have taken 5 and cubed it, minus 9 times 5 squared plus 19 times 5 plus 12. And then found that number But for us, using the remainder theorem means that we are not going to be doing that. We are going to be using synthetic division. So we need to identify what our coefficients are, and if it's in order from greatest to least. So my coefficients are 1, -9, 19, and 12. And they were in order, so that makes it easier. This 5 will be what's going in our box. So that box is going to get that 5. And then we're just going to do the coefficients. And the same steps that we did the last time. So, drop the first, multiply, giving us 1 times 5, which is 5, add, giving us -9 plus 5 is -4, multiply, giving us -20, add, giving us 1, multiply, giving us 5, and then adding, giving us 17. When you're using the remainder theorem to find an answer, that answer is going to come from just the remainder. Whatever that number is the answer. So in this case, f of 5 is equal to 17. If I would have plugged 5 in for each of the a's and evaluated it, I would have come up with 17. Another way of asking the same question, instead of doing the f of 5, it may ask you to evaluate when n equals a certain number, or your variable equals a certain number. So this is asking the same question, just a different phrasing. So, look to see if my exponents are in order. They are. This time I have a higher power, so that means I would have had to start with 4 or down. So my first coefficient is 1, 2, -7, 9, and 20. I'm going to use synthetic division. And with synthetic division, I am going to plug in that -4 into the box. 1, 2, -7, 9, and 20. So step 1, drop my first thing, 1, then multiply, giving me -4. So I write down -4. Excuse me. Then add, giving me 2 plus a -4 is -2. Multiply. -2 times -4 is +8. Add -7 plus 8 is a +1. Multiply gives me a -4. Add, give me a +5. Multiply, give me a -20. And add, giving me 0. That last thing, that last number you get, is your remainder. That is the number that's a solution. So, f of -4 is equal to 0. That's your answer.